Hello viewers, and welcome to another edition of F1 Talk. This is episode 21 and here is my reviews and thoughts of the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, the splendour and pageantry of Monaco is usually more important than the race, and in this season of unpredictability, we finally got some predictability with regards to the actual event. You know, it's a special place. It's, like I said in my previous video, it's contested more Grand Prix than any other circuit. It's also we also had Monaco Grand Prix before the official World Championship was established. But yesterday, I will say this now, yesterday's race, as I'm recording this the day after obviously, yesterday's race was the worst race of the season. Easily. But I'll go through what I thought of it. I've got a list of talking points, and I'll give you the championship standings after I've gone through the review. So, first of all, I've got to talk about the lap 1 incident. Kicked off going down into Saint-Devote, first corner, and Schumacher, you know, and Grosjean had a little bit of a tangle, and quite frankly it destroyed both men's races. Grosjean was out there and then, and if you see the drivers' agreement of the past few seasons, whether you're allowed to make one move and you're only allowed to make one move. So if you're coming up behind somebody, the guy in front can either go left or right to protect his position once, just once. So Grosjean went right, so Schumacher went left, and Grosjean cut into him to turn the corner. In my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, Grosjean's fault. Yet he still tried to blame Michael when interviewed by the press after the race. Past the Maldonado, back to his, should I say, best or worst. He was also involved in a similar altercation at the first turn. Very, very disappointing considering how good he was in Spain. The real Past the Maldonado returned, in my opinion. He got a 10-place grid penalty in practice. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. A little bit of red mist developing there. Apparently he's done it a few times before in his career. He's always been known as a bit of a risk taker, but when Perez got him in practice, or passed him in practice, he retaliated by hitting his right rear into Perez as both of them were going into the tunnel in practice, and he got a 10-place grid penalty. They decided to take him to the back of the grid, did Williams, and changed the strategy. It lasted about a corner, 2 corners if that, and we had a nice cockpit shot of the crane lifting it up. We were actually in Maldonado's cockpit as the crane lifted us up, and we could actually see what it was like, because we'd never seen that before, and it was quite interesting to see. What I will say is that the drag reduction system, or the DRS, or the flappy rear wing, basically ineffective at Monaco. The DRS zone began just after the final corner, and in the finishing curve. That might have something to do with it. They need extra zones, but there's no such thing as a straight at Monaco really, so the only place you could do it is just going up to Casino Square, going to the end of Intermediate 1 to Section 1. So not a lot they can do there. Another bit is just after the chicane, coming out of the tunnel, start to go straight, but even then it probably wouldn't be very effective. So DRS, I reckon we must have got 3 passes all day yesterday. Whereas in the previous season we got 28. I don't know. But DRS didn't do anything. Sebastian Vettel's tyre management was incredible. He and Jenson Button started on the prime tyre, which was the soft tyre this weekend at Monaco, just as I predicted. That was one thing I predicted, right? Vettel managed to make his prime tyre last 40 plus laps, and that was very impressive. I mean, and he wasn't losing time either, he was getting quicker and quicker and quicker. But did you notice that when Vettel's tyres fell off the cliff, they pulled him in immediately at the end of that lap to put on the option super soft tyres? So, you know, it's the cliff, going to the cliff you're okay, but as soon as you hit that cliff in terms of the Pirelli tyres, you are in trouble. You are really in trouble. But you know, it's Michael Schumacher got the pole position. He was fastest around the circuit, but because of a 5-place grid penalty he got for his confrontation with Senna in Spain, he was demoted to 6th on the grid. Could he have won the race? Anything's possible, really. If he was first on the grid, he wouldn't have had that collision with Grosjean on the first corner. He eventually retired, as did 8 others. 9 retirements, only 15 finishes this week. That is the biggest rate of attrition we've seen since these new engine rules came in, where you're only allowed 8 engines per season. Many of them through crashes and things like that, but mechanical failures for Jenson Button and obviously Michael Schumacher. You know, the race technically didn't start till about lap 68, lap 70, when everyone was trying to manage their tyres. It started to drizzle on the track, and that created slippy conditions, but nothing really the drivers couldn't handle. So you had the top 5 or 6 cars all following each other in a big long snake going around the circuit, and you know, it started to get really exciting then. But going for 68 laps or so without much excitement, thank God for Sergio Perez, who actually pulled off the passes. Bit of a incident in the first lap and first corner, and Perez might have been the occasion with Maldonado, but Perez was the one doing the passing, not much of it either really. And you know, it's all to do with the narrow nature of Monaco. It's always going to produce racing like that, which is a shame obviously, because you know, this season's been really good up until this race, so which doesn't bode well for Valencia. It's practically the same type of circuit, although there are a couple of straights, and same thing with Singapore. However, there is a big long straight that the DRS can hopefully get activated. Jenson Button stuck behind Heikki Kovalainen for the majority of the race. Kovalainen was doing well. You know, had the Caterham up in 13th, which is its highest position ever. And if a couple more retirements have happened, Caterham might have scored their first point. Felipe Massa had a sort of resurgence. Pretty good qualifying session from the Brazilian. He started to look a little bit like the Felipe Massa we saw in 2008 that took Lewis Hamilton right to the end of the championship. and in the race I believe he was faster than Alonso. You could see Massa was all over the back of him in the early stages. I was very surprised that Ferrari didn't get on the blower to Alonso just to say, look, Felipe is faster than you. Do you understand this? And you got to look at it from Alonso's point of view. He's the one going for the championship. Even if Massa scores points in every race from now, Alonso still is the Ferrari number one, and that much is clear, you know. But I will say, wet or damp conditions equals better racing, and that has been the case ever since I can remember. I always preferred watching a wet race, and you know, look at Donington '93 European Grand Prix. That's all you need to know. And just a couple more bits. When the rains did start to drizzle down, Toro Rosso pulled Jean-Eric Vergne in. He was 8th, I think, at the time, and decided to put him on intermediates as a bit of a tyre gamble. Now, that's the whole strategy with regard to tyre gambles. Similar, I remember very distinctly the 2001 Malaysian Grand Prix when it started to absolutely hash it down and everyone got caught up in the pits. Ferrari had to queue up both their drivers at the time, Barrichello and Schumacher. Everyone was going on the full wet tyre compound, but Ferrari chose the intermediates, hoping that the rain would ease off. It did ease off. Ferrari won the race with a 1-2. And that's what Toro Rosso were trying. They were hoping that the rain was going to continue, and you know, Vergne would have picked up places, maybe even a podium, possibly the race win, if the other teams were going to pull their drivers in and put them on the intermediates. Unfortunately for Vergne and Toro Rosso, the gamble didn't pay off. The weather dried up a little bit, enabling the other cars, the other 14 cars that were on the track at that time, to finish the race on the slick tyres that they had on for 10-15 plus laps. And one other bit of news, there was controversy over the Red Bull aerodynamics in terms of the rear of the car. Now, it's my understanding that the rear of a Formula 1 car now has to have a continuous block along the bottom under the rear wing, sort of close to the where the diffusers have been in the past few years. Now, Red Bull actually have a hole in this particular piece of aerodynamics. Ferrari have a slit, but it is part of the aerodynamics, and that has been cleared by the FIA. Red Bull have a hole, and surprise, surprise, as I'm wearing the hat this week, with this particular episode, Red Bull won with Mark Webber. I'll go over race results, championship standings, as I said, in a couple of moments' time. But Ferrari, Lotus, McLaren, Mercedes, and I do believe another team as well, but I know those 4 teams at the very least have launched a protest in with regards to this change in the Red Bull aerodynamics. It seemed to work around Monaco, but it seems as though the cars work, each different car works well at a specific track. For instance, the McLarens didn't do very well again this weekend, but the McLarens also didn't expect to do well this weekend. Bit of damage limitation as far as the McLarens were concerned. Anyway, it's time for the race results. I know it's a little bit late in the video, but I had to get those things out of the way. Mark Webber finally wins his first race of the season, and he becomes the 6th different winner from 5 different constructors in the 6th race of the season. This championship is unbelievable. It's the closest championship I have ever seen already, and we're only just past quarter record distance in the championship. Nico Rosberg, he gets a second place, pretty well deserved second place. Fernando Alonso jumped Lewis Hamilton in the first round of pit stops, and that's the only time we saw any overtaking, was pit stop strategy. And with Alonso saying that Hamilton was going to be his closest championship rival this year, good for Alonso, bad for Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel with that tyre management, I actually thought was full on for winning the race. My prediction for pole position came true, even though it was handed to him via Schumacher's penalty, but it still came true. That's my first correct prediction of the season. So much for me knowing a bit about F1. Sebastian Vettel fourth, thanks to that tyre management on the harder compound soft tyre, 40 plus laps. I mean, that was good driving by Sebastian. Hamilton in fifth. Felipe Massa, as I said, bit resurgence there. He came sixth. Paul di Resta in the Force India seventh. His teammate Nico Hülkenberg eighth. Kimi Raikkonen, who didn't really have a good race really. He was he had a train of cars coming up to the second set of pit stops, or to his particular stop actually, and he had a train of cars behind him. They had to pull him in. He was struggling for grip because he was on the super softs for his first stint. He came in and basically that was it. He was finished, but he managed to get back up to ninth. And Bruno Senna salvaged a point for Williams after, you know, it's after the Lord Mayor's show apparently. You know, they jubilations and winning in Spain. They grabbed 1 point here at Monaco. So championship standing, Fernando Alonso moves up to the top by himself now, with that third place, with 76 points, 3 points ahead of the pair of Red Bulls now. Sebastian Vettel on 73, Mark Webber on 73 as well. Vettel ahead on results count back. Lewis Hamilton fourth in the championship, 63. Rosberg fifth on 59. Kimi Raikkonen on 51. And he's my tip for the championship. He's got to pull his socks up, but he has been better in non-street races, as has everyone else with the lack of passing. Jenson Button, disastrous weekend for him. Came 11th or 12th in qualifying. Didn't score any points, retired in the race, 45 still. Grosjean, who also retired, 35. Maldonado, 29. Perez didn't score, still on 22 in 10th place. Constructors standings, Red Bull with 146, McLaren with 108, Lotus third with 86, both sharing with Ferrari also on 86. Lotus on results count back obviously because Felipe Massa had his best result of the season, so Lotus are above Ferrari in the constructors. Mercedes with 61, Williams with 44, Sauber in 7th with 41, Force India 8th on 28, and 9th place Toro Rosso with 6 points. The three new teams still yet to score. So basically what I can say about the Monaco Grand Prix was, you know, first corner incident, fairly interesting, good win by Mark Webber. You know, basically controlled the whole race from pole to finish. He didn't really put a foot wrong all weekend. He said he loves Monaco, and it's fairly obvious to see why. Two-time winner of Monaco now, Mark Webber. You know, I thought my prediction for Vettel for the race was going to come true when he was managing them soft tyres before he came in for the super softs. All in all, pretty boring race really, which is a shame because we had quite a bit of passing last year in 2011. We just didn't get the passing really, and it sort of made the race a bit of an anticlimax, which is what usually happens at Monaco. Last year gave me hope, and as I say, sadly this year we were lucky to get 5 passes I think this year. So, you know, something needs to be done with the aerodynamics, as I keep saying. Something also needs to be done with regards to the DRS zones, and you know, if they can't extend the DRS zone, then surely allow us to have a couple more DRS zones to try and get some passing, because that failed was a really bad race, as I say, until lap 68, 70 when the rain started to drizzle. So that's about it for this edition of F1 Talk. I thank you for watching. Any comments or suggestions, as I say, in the comment box. Please have a look at Dark Gaz's particular results and Formula One thoughts of every race. I'll put a link to his page in the description, and just to see what his thoughts were as well, give you a little bit more analysis from somebody else who isn't me. So I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.